Hello everyone, welcome to GoTarryn TV. I'm Taryn, the traveling trainer with GoTarryn Personal Training here in the greater Atlanta area. About to welcome back another wonderful guest to today's show, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, Ms. Michelle Lorenz. Now, before Michelle joins us on today's video blog, I'd like to ask everyone out there, if you please be so kind as to like this video, leave us a comment, and share it with all of your friends and family out there. Now today, Michelle's going to be joining us on GoTarryn TV to talk a little bit about what are some of the things going on with LifeVantage. And last time we had her on the show, we talked a little bit about NRF1, NRF2. And now there's some new concepts that are totally new to me, like sirtuin and NAD, and she's going to be talking a little bit about that and giving us some great stories and empirical, statistical data that has been collected, and talking also and referencing Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard. So, and some other research studies that are just wonderful. This is going to be a wonderful, awesome, jam-packed show. And Michelle is just very passionate, full of energy, and she's excited to share everything going on, especially specifically about NAD. So we're going to learn more about that here in the next half hour. So make sure that you return back to today's show with Ms. Michelle Lorenz from Phoenix, Arizona. Remember, with GoTarryn Personal Training, it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. And as you can see side by side, I promised we're welcoming back all the way out from Phoenix, Arizona, Ms. Michelle Lorenz. Michelle, how are you doing out there today?
I'm fantastic, Taryn. How are you?
Good, thank you. Great to talk to you again. And it was really nice to meet you for the first time last month virtually. And now we get to kind of do a one-on-one here and just get caught up. Last time we were talking a little bit about the NRF1 and NRF2 and some of the other great, exciting things. And you were telling me about some of the things with Dr. David Sinclair and the NAD product and how that works with athletes. And, so I guess I was just going to jump in there and see how you're doing and just kind of go from there, because it looks like some new, exciting things are happening.
Absolutely. So, it's been pretty fascinating what's been going on recently in this field of epigenetics, right? So epigenetics is just studying how a protein can activate your body and turn on your body's expression of genes. And that's what Dr. Sinclair talks about from Harvard. And it's really, he and another doctor at MIT really established this field of how to use NAD and what some of your listeners may have heard of, which is genes called sirtuins. And that's just blown my mind, understanding how that's impacting us both with our health span, but definitely with athletes improving their performance.
Yeah, that's new to me, that whole concept. So I've never heard of that, and or the sirtuin. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? And again, because this will be very educational and insightful for me as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically sirtuins, and it's spelled S-I-R-T-U-I-N-S, sirtuins are longevity genes in our body. And all mammals have these 7 genes that they're same. So horses, dogs, cats, and people, the people you train. And what scientists discovered is that they are activated by caloric restrictions. So you probably know a lot of people that use intermittent fasting, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, many of my clients, right.
Yeah, so caloric restriction is a more extreme version of intermittent fasting. And what scientists discovered, and it was scientists in the longevity field, they weren't really looking at kinesiology and physiology, they were studying longevity. And so they started looking at people that were 100 years old, trying to figure out what is it that's helping them live to be 100. And they did that. They found a lot of these people had gone through periods of famine, whether it was like Irish potato famine or other periods of depression. And not only were those people living longer, but then the crazy thing is that their kids who hadn't gone through famine were also living longer. So it was causing changes to their genes that people live longer. And so they wanted to figure out why. What they studied is they learned that as we age, our sirtuin genes, they don't work as well anymore. So there's really kind of been a paradigm shift. So think about it like this. For the longest time, we've always thought that disease causes us to age. Scientists are thinking now is it's actually the opposite. Our body has these genes, these survival genes, these longevity genes that protect us, right? And protected us 100 years ago and 1,000 years ago, before we had antibiotics, before we had Band-Aids to put on our wounds. Our body had to have a defense system when we were getting chased by dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that defense system, it protects us. But now we're exposed to so much more stuff, whether it's athletes that do PEDs, whether it's the pollution, whether it's the glyphosates in our food, all sorts of toxins that get into our body, and it's damaged our cells. And when we damage our cells, it doesn't matter if it's causing disease, causing aging, or impacting our performance if we're athletes, right? Cellular damage slows down our performance. And the older we get, the less effective these genes are at protecting us. And so there's 500 survival genes, 7 sirtuins. They all work less effectively as we age. And so the really amazing thing is scientists said, well, how do we get them to turn on? And your athletes will love this. So one way is with caloric restriction. That's great to do, but you got to eat like 500 to 700 calories a day to do it.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you can't really work out and have a hard leg day when you're only eating 500 calories, right? Now, intermittent fasting is good, but our 16-8 or our 18-6, that's not going to get your sirtuin activity up. You really need to go without food for 2 days, essentially, kind of cut yourself back almost to nothing. And what happens is your body says, oh man, I'm in a period of stress. I better send my genes to help protect the body, right? And so those genes are called sirtuins. Now, the really amazing thing is there's other things that athletes do that help boost your sirtuin activity. So long distance endurance athletes, you know, people that run triathlons, rowers, people that are long distance cyclists, they have higher level of sirtuin activity. And we also know that ice, jumping into the Arctic waters, athletes that sit in those ice tubs thinking it's they're reducing their inflammation, it's helping them improve their sirtuin activity as well. So anything that stresses the body, going without food, super cold, even saunas, going from cold to hot, anything that stresses your body is going to turn on your body's genes that are your defense system to help protect you, and ultimately will help improve performance. And we can talk about that a little too.
No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. This is very, again, enlightening. So I'm really happy, you know, that they've jumped on this. And so with this, with athletes, how aware now are most athletes of, you know, pretty much this sirtuin and these levels with the NAD?
Yeah, not much yet. Not much, which is why we're so excited. So the way that sirtuins work and the way that NRF1 work that we talked about before is there's 3 sirtuin genes of those 7 that impact our body's mitochondria. And so you might remember Greg LeMond, he rode in the Tour de France, right? The only winner from the U.S. that's ever done it without PEDs. So Greg LeMond has this fantastic book from about 2015. And he says in this book, listen, mitochondria should be as important to an athlete's vocabulary as proteins and carbs. And if you don't understand how mitochondria affects your performance, you're missing out. And so the reason he learned about it is because he got shot and he got some buckshot, lead that's still in his body, and that lead poisoned his mitochondria. That's why he had to retire from cycling when he was really kind of at the peak of his career.
Oh, wow.
So he learned about mitochondria. So mitochondria, think of them like the engines of our cells, right? They're where we get our energy. So 95% of our body's energy comes from our mitochondria. And so if your mitochondria are unhealthy, you're unhealthy. If your mitochondria die, you die. It's that simple. And so in our bicep muscle, you may have a 200, 300 mitochondria. In your quad, it may be 1,000. And then in your heart and your neurological system, up to 5,000 mitochondria in just one cell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a big, massive difference. So how do they work? It's pretty cool how they work. Mitochondria help us process our oxygen, and they produce what you probably know, ATP, right? All people, they understand adenosine triphosphate. That's where we get our energy as athletes. So there's some really fascinating studies about ATP. And when you boost your ATP, it helps you boost your VO2 max. So for those of you that are new to your world, VO2 max is how much oxygen your body utilizes in its muscles. Not how much you take in, but how much you utilize, right? So how much do you get to your heart? How much do you get to your muscles? Well, think about this. If you can get more oxygen to your muscles and more oxygen to your heart, what are you going to be able to do as an athlete?
A lot
train
more. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right? Train
Much
longer,
more
train
efficiently.
harder, train more often.
Better, stronger.
Yeah. And so the more you can do that, the more you can kind of optimize your training. And the really, really amazing thing about these sirtuin genes is there's some studies going on at Harvard. I encourage everybody to check out Dr. David Sinclair's book because he talks about well, let me go back one step. I'm sorry.
No,
So
yeah.
sirtuins, they need a protein called NAD. So NAD is what we're here to talk about today. So NAD stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Long term, use NAD, a lot easier. Right? So NAD is like the fuel for our sirtuins.
Okay.
Without NAD, our sirtuin genes can't work. And both sirtuin activity and NAD activity goes down as we age. Now, for those 20-year-old athletes that are listening to you going, I don't need to worry about this, you actually do, because your sirtuin production and activity starts going down from the moment you're born. And so at 10, you have more sirtuin activity than at 20. And at 30, you have more than at 40. And the way to continue to be the healthy athlete at 40 is to start taking care of your mitochondria and your sirtuins at 20.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah,
it's all
definitely
about maintenance. And so you need NAD to fuel your sirtuins. When you do that, once you boost your NAD levels, you boost your VO2 max because your sirtuins work better, your mitochondria works better.
Sure.
And when you boost your VO2 max, you can exercise more. There's a really fascinating body of research in the context of dogs. And I told you that was one of the things that piqued my interest when we talked the first time. So the two probably most elite animal athletes we can think of are thoroughbreds, right? The racehorses. And why did Secretariat win by so far and so long? Because his heart was bigger. What happened? He got more oxygen to his muscles. That's in essence what sirtuins are doing, is they're helping you get more oxygen to your muscles. And then the other athlete that is actually more elite athlete than a horse is a sled dog. So there's some really cool research going on at Oklahoma State where they found that dogs, the reason they can play ball for 100 hours, it seems like, and you tire out, but your dog, that's because they have 70% more mitochondria than people. And check out this. So you're a pretty elite athlete. Your VO2 max is probably between 60 and 80, I'm guessing. Have you tested it recently?
Not in a long time. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, but you're probably right.
Yeah, most elite athletes, people that run and do a lot of endurance work, their VO2 max is between 60 and 80.
Sure.
Most traditional men, it's in the 40s.
Sure.
Most women, it runs about 20% less. Sled dogs, VO2 max is 300.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
So that's why they can run for 20 miles one day, run for 20 miles the next day, 20 miles for a month on end. Wow. They can run 20 miles a day. And the reason is because they have 70% more mitochondria. So that's all this cycle. More mitochondria is more ATP is more VO2 max, and the more VO2 max, the better you can work out. It's a really simple process, but so powerful for athletes, right? Big difference in performance.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. You mentioned, too, Dr. Sinclair's book. What is the title of his book there, Michelle?
His book's called Lifespan.
Why
we age and why we don't have to.
Oh, okay.
It talks about the whole mitochondrial theory of aging and all about the importance of these sirtuins and how they found them. And they did a study at Harvard. So he's a geneticist at Harvard. His mentor is a geneticist at MIT. So it's really kind of the leading science in the world, right?
Absolutely. No question.
So Dr. Sinclair, he was voted one of the 100 most influential people in Time magazine in the whole world.
Wow.
So he's a big deal,
That's
right?
amazing, yeah.
So he comes to the United States. He's got this lab at MIT, and then he ends up going to Harvard, and he studied under Lenny Guarente at MIT, then goes to Harvard, and he builds his own lab, and he specializes in longevity. And everybody said, oh, you should go study a disease, you silly guy. Why are you studying longevity? Well, as it turns out, he's kind of been one of the leaders in this field saying aging is what allows us to get disease. If we turn on our body's genes, our military defense system inside of our body, right? If we can activate them to work the way we did when we were 20, then we could live to be 120, 140, and we could live healthier. Now, why does that matter to athletes? Because those genes boost our mitochondria. So they did this really cool test. They did a test on twin mice. They cloned these mice. So they're, in essence, brothers, completely genetic similar. Wow. One of them had NAD and one did not. So the other one just aged normally. And when you look at the pictures of them, one looks like an old aged mouse with gray hair and he's kind of skinny and doesn't have a lot of muscles. And the one that's been using NAD looks like a young mouse. Now, he says they're the equivalent of about 65-year-old people. That's kind of their mouse age, if you will. So they put them on a treadmill. And this treadmill has software that tests their endurance.
Wow.
So this is going to blow your mind. You aren't even going to believe this. So what happens is they have these two twin brothers running, and the brother that was NAD activated ran 80% longer.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Yeah, 8% longer. And he broke the treadmill because the treadmill was programmed to shut off at 3 kilometers because they had never had a mouse that run a kilometer, let alone 3 kilometers.
Yeah.
So he runs 3 kilometers. Think about that for this little itty bitty mouse. And he broke the treadmill because he kept running and the computer was saying, no, the treadmill's not supposed to work. So it's kind of a joke around Harvard that NAD broke the treadmill for their mice, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
And, yeah, we've got a woman who has used our NAD activator, just came out about 2 weeks ago now. And she is a D1 college athlete. She ran the 4x4 in college. She's 45 right now. Okay. And this story is mind-blowing. So she says, I have continued to train my whole life. I run 3 to 5 miles a day, 6 days a week. Okay. Right now, she's in the process of training for a half marathon. And so she was in about her 8th week of training, and she was running 9 miles. And then the following week, she ran 10 miles. Her 9-mile run, she said my pace was in the high 9s.
Oh, God. Oh.
So she's a pretty good athlete,
fast.
Right?
Yeah,
45
certainly.
woman, right? So she's in the high 9s.
Wow.
She said, for the last 10 years, I've never been able to break a 9-minute pace. She takes NAD on Friday, on Saturday, and on Sunday. Friday was her off day. Saturday, she ran 3 miles, kind of a throwaway run for her. And then Sunday, she goes out the next Sunday and runs 10 miles. Her pace was 8:37.
Oh, wow.
She, like a minute 20 off of her pace and ran a mile more. And she said, Michelle, you wouldn't believe it because I cut my time, but the next day, I didn't have any DOMs. I wasn't sore, even though I ran 10 miles. She says that, look, I'm a 45-year-old woman. I get sore after I run. She said it didn't happen after her training.
Wow.
So think about how much of a difference that would make, both for somebody who's older trying to get back in shape. You know, as a personal trainer, one of the biggest reasons your clients don't stay with you is they get discouraged because they can't keep up. So if you could help them boost their mitochondria so that they could do a little bit more, so that they weren't as miserable the day after you did legs, right?
Oh, yeah.
For us to love leg days. I love leg days, but it's an acquired taste. So if you can help people who are out of shape boost their mitochondria so it makes it a little bit easier for them to get their workouts in and not get discouraged, great. And if you can take the D1 athletes in college or the high school athletes who are trying to get a scholarship and help them boost their mitochondria so they can have fourth quarter legs, right? You don't want to have your legs run out at halftime. You want to have fourth quarter legs if you're a running back. If you could do that so that you could train more, if you could train like Saquon Barkley, maybe you can up your performance as well. And the great thing is, Dr. Sinclair emphasizes this. A lot of people said, well, is this safe? And he said, all of their studies that they've done for almost a decade, it's been safe because all it's doing, it's not a supplement, right? Supplements change your body's chemistry. All this is doing is turning on your genes so that your genes produce the NAD, so that your genes activate those sirtuins so they do what they've been doing from the time you were newborn.
But,
so
yeah,
it's turning back the clock,
right,
so that we can be as fit in our cellular level as we were when we were younger. So, man, the science it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
It really is, Michelle, and it's mind-blowing, like you said, but I like the way it sounds like it's very, makes our body run more efficiently, like a machine, and just works better. So this NAD itself, with LifeVantage, what's the ways people would be able to, I assume that they would be able to orally take this, like as a pill or a drink. Or,
it is.
I'm assuming, yeah. That's
yeah. So So there's a couple of different iterations of NAD. There's some precursors. So just so you know, NAD comes from vitamin B3. It's a downstream derivative of niacin.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, like a lot of vitamins and supplements you take, they're not bioavailable throughout our cells, and we don't get to utilize them that well.
Right, exactly.
Right? And so as we age, again, you utilize it even less well.
Yeah.
And so some of these precursors are the steps between vitamin B3 and NAD.
Okay.
Our product isn't that. Our product turns on your body's production of NAD. It turns on your genes that make it. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can just order it. Yeah, you can, if you want information, I know you talked about my website earlier. You can get it through me, but also, honestly, you guys, it's so powerful. I wanted to share this with you. There's people that are using NAD through IVs. Like they're going to a doctor and sitting there for, you know, several hours having IV infusions of NAD, cost them thousands of dollars. This is pills every morning. So 2 pills every morning. And we did some clinical studies on ours. Our company in particular, for us, science matters, right? We don't just tell you something, we prove it. So we did some clinical studies on some genes that boost NAD activity and what happens when you use our NAD synergizer with NRF1 and NRF2, which they're all kind of symbiotic, right? They work together to boost those genes. And here's what happened. Our NAD synergizer, it boosted your sirtuin activity by almost 100% in 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
Here's why that's significant. So caloric restriction, if you want to eat 500 calories a day for the rest of your life, which nobody wants, right? That boosts sirtuin activity by 94%. Those precursors that are on the market, and there's a couple of, you know, look, they're good. They're better than what we had before. But it takes 30 days for those precursors like NR to boost your sirtuin activity by 40%. So you can take it for a month and boost it by 40%, or you could let your body boost it by turning on your body's genes, and it boost it by 100% in just one day. So we are, I mean, to say we're giddy with excitement is kind of an understatement. We have some really amazing athletes using it. So you've watched the ESPYs, right? Everybody that's a personal trainer loves the ESPYs. Do you know who Anthony Robles is?
No, I'm not familiar. Who is that?
So Anthony Robles won an ESPY, and he was a wrestler here at Arizona State.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And he was born with one leg.
Oh, yeah, I've seen him. Yeah, I just didn't know the name, but I remember now.
So he went on and wrestled at ASU and won the NCAA D1 championship.
Yeah,
even though he only had one leg as a wrestler, right?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, so he wrote this book called Unstoppable. He's got a movie coming out. It's just an amazing story of perseverance and dedication and training. So he's been NRF2 activated since 2011, but he now uses NAD and NRF1 as well. He's going to be on Veterans Day trying to set a world record for pull-ups for the disabled veterans of America, and he is using our products. And I might have mentioned this before, and it's one of the things that for me, my background, I told you, is in the law, so I look for evidence, right? I want the evidence, not somebody's sales pitch. And for me, the thing that mattered is the athletes that use our products. We have Olympians, ex-Games champions, you know, former Mr. Olympias, international cycling champions. You can kind of professional surfers, professional volleyball players, professional football players. We've got a list. We don't pay any of them a single endorsement dollar.
Huh. Wow.
That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies drop $1 million in their bank account so that they tell you, hey, drink my protein shake.
Right.
They don't do that. And so the reason they use our products is because it impacts their performance and helps improve their oxidative stress levels. So those go away, help improve their mitochondria and ATP. So for me, that was a big deal. I wanted to know that the people recommending these products that used them, they believed in them, right? And when you see professional athletes that talk about the change in their power output or talk about the change in their VO2 max or cutting almost a minute and a half off their pace from 1 week to the next, I mean, anybody out there that's a runner, you know, that doesn't happen. You may cut 10 or 15 seconds off your pace, but you don't up your time and drop your pace that significantly. So some really powerful testimonies about how it's helping you really just kind of get the most out of your own genetics, right? And I think that, you know, whether you are somebody that's been training your whole life, you've been putting, you know, 20, 30 hours in at the gym for 20 years, you want to make sure you squeeze every last ounce out of your genetics, right? Especially if you're trying to make a college team get a scholarship or or if you want to go get invited to the combine, right? You know that a second can make a difference in whether you get invited or don't get invited. And that's the kind of difference that this is going to have. And the really cool thing, just because I know we've got a lot of athletes that get drug tested, it's BSCG certified. So that's the Banned Substances Control Group. It's all natural. These are just plant chemicals, phytochemicals that our bodies have been using for millions of years. We just kind of combined them in a patented recipe to help them work a lot better.
Wow, that's very impressive, Michelle. And in terms of like eating habits, do they tell you just eat normally and drink once you're on this regimen, or how would that work?
Yeah. So what's really cool, and this is again from the studies at Harvard and MIT, is they said, first of all, this is going to blow the mind of some of the women on the call, especially. The mice that were eating NAD in their mice chow every day, kind of like their mice chow, the mice eating NAD were able to maintain their weight despite what they ate. So this boosted, think about people as you get older. You may eat the same thing, you may exercise the same, but your body doesn't keep the weight off. Why? Because your metabolism changes. So if you boost your metabolism genes, it can help you keep your weight down. So the woman that I mentioned to you, she lost 4 pounds in 3 days. This is a weight loss product. It's not intended for that. But that impacted her. Now, I haven't had that same result myself with dropping weight and not doing anything differently. But the doc at Harvard said this, and this is, I think, really powerful. If you're already an athlete and you're already boosting your sirtuin activity, when you add NAD, it even supercharges it more. So if you are somebody that's been doing cryotherapy, if you've been doing 10-mile runs, if you've been doing intermittent fasting and helping optimize your health already, this is going to just supercharge what you've already been doing, right? Yeah. So this is really kind of I wouldn't say a panacea, because the more you do to help yourself, the more this is going to help you.
Wow. This is great, Michelle. And, it's wonderful that, like you said, the studies have been long-term and they're out there, they're empirical, and that they have the data that obviously has been quantified. And so everything is statistically proven, and, the results and conclusions are drawn there from the experts. So, and Harvard and MIT, I mean, with that kind of prestige behind it, you can't really argue that. Those are amazing results. So I'm really curious to learn more about this, going forward in the future. This is wonderful. And so what does the, kind of, I guess, short-term future look like? I know you guys, again, you've had a busy couple of weeks when you and I were talking back and forth, a lot of meetings, but what is in the plans for the rest of this year as you close out for 2019?
Yeah. So I actually may be coming down to the ATL where you are and heading to the Southeast.
Let me know, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are really kind of just trying to get the word out about not only NAD activation, but how it works in synergy with NRF1 and NRF2, because they really are a combination, right? So trying to get the word out, spreading the news, helping people understand, because this is kind of complicated science, right? Yeah. So, one of the things that we've tried to do is to make this a little simpler for people. And I use this analogy all the time, and it helps to help for lay people that aren't physiologists, right? Like you. So basically think of a fireplace. And a fireplace, when you want your fire to be a big fire, what do? You add more logs, and you want bigger logs, not just kindling. Same thing happens inside your cells. Think of your mitochondria like the logs on the fire. You want your cells to work better. You want more mitochondria, and you want bigger, thicker, healthier mitochondria. Then when you burn your fireplace, you get soot at the bottom of it, right? And that soot, it kind of gums up your fireplace. You don't get the amount of oxygen, doesn't work as well. Your fire doesn't work and burn as well. So you have to clean the soot out of your fireplace for your fire to burn. Same thing happens in your cells. You've got to clean the free radicals and oxidative stress, all of those misfolded proteins. Got to get those zombie cells out of your cells so that your cell functions better, so that you perform better. That's what NRF2 does. And then NAD, it's like the lighter fluid on the fire. It ignites the fire and makes everything burn hotter and burn better. Helps so many different aspects of what Dr. Sinclair calls the 9 hallmarks of aging. And those 9 hallmarks of aging, they speed up the aging process, but they also slow down our performance. and our recovery. So that's why athletes should care about it. And that's what we're doing the rest of the year. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about NAD and sirtuins and how they impact performance. You're going to hear lots of crazy testimonials because they're starting to come in like mad now that people are getting on them. And so I'm actually going to be coming down to the Southeast. Actually, I'm going up to Salt Lake City this weekend to talk to some people up in Salt Lake City about sirtuins and NAD. And so we're really excited because we are the first one in the world to do this naturally. So a lot of people are using synthetic drugs and developing synthetic things. Ours is basically going back to nature and turning on your body. And there's no better way to do it than to turn on your body's own pharmacy, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, certainly. Now, this is great, Michelle. I'm so excited. And again, I've learned so much in the last half hour from you. This has really been great. I can't wait to do another one of these with you very soon and talk more. And I just learned so much in 30 minutes from you. This has just flown by so amazingly fast today.
Yeah, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for you having me on.
No, this has been great.
Share this because
Thank
it really,
you.
honestly, it's making a huge difference in people's lives, animals' lives. You know, if you could take somebody who's a senior citizen who's kind of frail and not getting around, and you can help give them a better quality of life, you know, that's great. Whether it's your grandparent or if you take an athlete who's been busting their hump in the gym and they're just not able to reach their goals, and you can just help them a little bit to reach their goals, whether that's to be, like I said, performing at a D1 school, or it's just somebody you're training in the gym that wants to drop some weight and stay involved with you longer as a personal trainer. That's part of all of this, is just helping improve people's quality of life. So excited to be doing that.
No, thank you, Michelle, and it's invaluable. And I appreciate your time. And again, I love the cute mice story too. That was really good. That's a good, studies there to show us how mind-blowing it is. But before I let you go, can we go ahead and I guess get some contact information from you if anybody else wants to directly, if they listen to this and want to reach you directly and ask more questions of you, how can they best reach you, please?
Absolutely. So email is extrainninglife. So extrainninglife at gmail.com. And my company website is extrainninglife.lifevantage.com. So love to share more with anybody that wants more information.
Perfect, Michelle. And we'll get that on the screen as we fade to black, too, here momentarily. So that way you can freeze it and they can write it down. But that's wonderful, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time. And as we fade to black, here comes your contact information again. And thank you so much for your time today, Michelle.
Absolutely, Taryn. Can't wait to see you out here in Arizona when you come out to GCU to finish up your PhD work,
too.
Thank you. So,
oh, yeah, definitely. You got it. Absolutely. Yeah, you got it for sure.
Bye-bye, Taryn. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.